What Were They Thinking is brought to you by HostGator. HostGator is a leading provider of shared, reseller, VPS, and dedicated hosting solutions. Award-winning support is available 24/7, 365 days a year via phone, email, and live chat. Discover why over 9 million websites trust HostGator. Use the coupon code SCHLOCK for 25% off your first purchase. That's SCHLOCK, SCHLOCK, for 25% off your first purchase.
What Were They Thinking is brought to you today by GameItAll.com. Whether it's video game news, the latest in music, or movie reviews, GameItAll.com is your one-stop shop for all nerdy talk. I have a question.
What's that, little hoaxer?
Hulk Hogan?
That's right, brother.
I mean, someone who sounds like Hulk Hogan, but copyright-wise is not technically Hulk Hogan.
That's right. Sure. Why not? Don't internet search me.
Okay, my mom doesn't let me use Google anymore anyway.
That's probably for the best, little hoaxer.
Wait a second. Maybe you can help me.
I'll do what I can.
I'm looking for all the wrestling news, rumors, and all the results, and I can't find them anywhere.
Well, let me tell you something, little hoaxer. If you need your fix for internet wrestling rumors and results and all the inside information, you're going to need to go to WrestlingNewsWorld.com. If you're not there, you're not anywhere, brother.
Wow, thanks, kind of Hulk Hogan.
Sure thing, little hoaxer. Remember, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and go to school and all that other stuff, because I'm not really Hulk Hogan, so I don't know what he'd want to say.
WrestlingNewsWorld.com. Hey everyone, Brendan here from What Were They Thinking. Make sure you join us on September the 3rd, well, for every episode, but September the 3rd we'll be having a very special awards/demerits type deal. It's going to be the first ever What Were They Thinking Manos handouts. We'll be giving awards for most unnecessary explosion, worst actors, worst movies, and also, like, most bearable movies. So check it out. I might have a few celebrity guests show up. Yeah. Now on to the show.
We are Joe and we are fine.
We are Joe's and we are fine.
Movie based on a toy line.
Movies based on a toy line.
All the fanboys hated it.
All the fanboys hated it.
Because of the non-canon shit.
Because of non-canon shit.
Sound off.
What were
Sound off.
they thinking?
What were they thinking? What were
They thinking?
You're dismissed, soldier.
And that was the pitch meeting for G.I. Joe.
Yes, that was the pitch for G.I. Joe. They mentioned how all the fanboys were going to hate all the non-canon shit that they wanted to do in the pitch meeting.
That's the only way I can understand that this movie got made.
Okay.
I am Brendan.
And I am Nathan, and with me in studio, we have our special guest, G.I. Joe aficionado, Matt Pettifer.
Hey, how's it going?
Now, are you a general or a colonel or a sergeant?
I don't think I'd be either of those.
Civilian.
G.I. Joe.
Civilian.
Civilian, yeah, looking from the outside in.
Now, I understand that this is one of your favorite films.
Oh yeah, one of my top 10.
So today we are talking about, as if you didn't get it from the opening there, we are talking about G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. The 2009?
Yes, 2009.
Attempt at making a G.I. Joe movie based on, you know, the cartoon and the toys and all that, the comics and all that stuff.
Now, they've actually they'd made a couple of cartoon movies by this point. I'm correct, right?
Yeah, there's been at least 3, I think.
Before this, or like
Cartoon ones, yeah. And also, well, there's probably been more than that because there's so many different lines. Like, there's the original, like, 1985 G.I. Joe cartoons, and then there's, like, Sigma 6, and there's a bunch of Sergeant Savage, a bunch of other lines, too, that they did that failed miserably.
Unfortunately, this one did not.
Did it do well?
It did quite well.
It did well in the box office and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's just the main thing for this movie was the fact that the fanboys hated it.
Yes,
Well-
that is true.
Funny you should mention that, because before we get into the movie, the body of the movie itself, this I found out that this film was not screened for critics before it was released, and only presented to select fans on the internet early on.
Wow, that's actually pretty telling.
Yeah. The thing is, did they not see the potential backlash in that? Because I'm sure, as Matt's going to tell us, this movie is not very true to its source material.
No, he's got some opinions.
Now, before we get into it, though, Brendan, I have to say, your research kind of sucked on the saying for it, because you put the wrong saying on the
You
Facebook
absolutely
site.
did.
put the
We're
wrong-
nerd calling you out on this one.
The wrong saying?
Yeah,
Yes.
you said now you know, and that's half the battle.
Wrong,
That's not the saying.
wrong.
It's completely wrong.
What is it? No,
100% wrong.
It's now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
all right, nerds.
I'm just saying, Brendan, if you're gonna, do it right.
I would argue I know more about G.I. Joe than the people who wrote this movie.
Well, that's
Probably.
yeah, it's probably a fair statement. Yeah.
So yeah, another thing is, there's a lot of there's quite a few talented people in this movie. Dennis Quaid was only.
If I can stop you there, every time he was on screen delivering his lines, I could not stop picturing him as Jerry Lee Lewis.
What?
I don't know. There was just something came over me when I was watching the movie. I just kept waiting for him to start spouting off stuff like "Follow that one, killer."
He should have just went.
If I'm
full-
going to hell, I'm going to hell playing the piano.
Did he play Jerry Lee Lewis in a movie or something?
Yeah, Great Balls of Fire.
Oh, I did not know that was Dennis Quaid. But apparently he was only supposed to be in 2-3 scenes. The filmmakers enjoyed working with him so much that they wrote 10 to 15 more scenes and filmed them with Dennis Quaid. That would explain a lot of the random Dennis Quaid scenes.
Or the fact that he was pretty much dead after the first attack, and they just kept him alive in what seemed like a tacked on scene.
Oh, 'cause he was
Yeah,
General
and then
Hawk,
he gradually gets
in the
better with
cartoons
it.
and comics was he was a main guy.
Yeah.
Nobody could hurt General Hawk.
Well, that's just it, right? There's so much stuff about this movie.
So, okay. So here
yes,
we go.
G.I. Joe, another toy line movie that we're doing
Yeah.
for our show.
What was the other toy line movie?
We did,
No, we didn't do Transformers.
Garbage Pail Kids.
Yes, that's the one.
Trading card, but still, same idea. It's a product to shill to kids to get them to spend their parents' money to buy the stuff. So
So, G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, as everyone would expect, begins in 1641 France.
with French people.
When this started and it said France 1641, I was like, what?
You thought you picked the wrong movie, didn't you?
Oh my god. Yeah, I honestly...
G.I. Jacques? What the hell?
G.I. Jacques. And this scene, honestly, this scene is the most unnecessary scene in the whole movie.
It kind of is.
Because later, when we find out, spoiler alert, McCullen is the bad guy,
Yeah.
he describes this whole scene.
Yep.
Well, it's I don't know. It was the trap that a lot of movies fall into with with well-known or well-established franchises. They feel the need to put the origin in when you got to take into account that I'm going to say anywhere from a good 70 to 80% of your target audience is going to be people who already know what's going on. And I don't know about Destro.
Well, the scene would have been fine if he had already been Destro at the first of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then that scene would have made sense. But where he didn't become Destro until the very end, right when they get arrested finally, it doesn't. There's no need for it.
Yeah, I it's gotta be a kick in the pants for someone excited to see Destro.
And they start out with his great-great-great-great-grandfather
Yeah, and
becoming the man in the iron mask.
and
And
that
they called him Destro, but I'm Destro later on.
I honestly 1,000%. It's funny you mentioned Man with the Iron Mask because I 1,000% for a second thought I was like maybe I downloaded Man with the Iron Mask because he puts puts a mask in like fire or lava or whatever, and then puts it on the dude's face, and I was like, what am I watching? I hope, Nathan, I pray that you made this joke. I wrote it down, but when it says in the not too distant future,
Next Sunday AD.
yeah. Also, how is 300 years the not too distant future?
Well, what year did they say was
1641, so almost 400 years.
Well, I think they mean in the not too distant future from whenever it is that you're watching it.
I don't know. It seemed like it was from that time. It was weird
Oh,
phrasing.
it was very 2009.
Yeah. It actually, guys, the G.I. Joe, the main body of the G.I. Joe movie actually just takes place in 1672. I guess we should explain what happened. Okay, so he got the Iron Mask thing because he was an arms dealer. I guess this guy.
Yeah, and he was selling to both sides.
Sides.
Yeah. And this is like McCullen's ancestor, but we don't know that yet. But I mean, it becomes pretty obvious from minute 2 that McCullen is going to be the villain.
Yes,
Oh,
because he has acid bugs.
Nanomites.
Yeah.
It's funny because the whole concept of the whole concept of the warheads is actually from one of the cartoon movies. Only they made it more futuristic with the nanonites than what they did in the movie. There was a cartoon movie called Rocket's Red Glare, and that's where this whole warhead thing came from. Only in Rocket's Red Glare they were nuclear.
I kept waiting for Matt to say except they were better. With every single except.
I'm assuming after a while we're just gonna have to tack that on. See, in the cartoon they did this and it was better.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, I gotta say this, like, the idea of these nanomites, right? Basically they eat through anything that's steel. Or like anything, basically they eat through anything, right?
Anything, yeah.
So one of the first lines, because we soon meet Channing Tatum and Marlon Wayans. They're our heroes, hooray! And
Who aren't G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
At
Oh
the
yeah,
very
yeah,
start.
yeah.
Even though Duke is supposed to be the most decorated G.I. Joe.
Yeah, because it's his origin story, I guess. But the thing
There's
is,
a lot of origin stories in this.
oh,
There are.
This movie may as well have been called Flashback, because every character gets a backstory and a full, like, fleshed out flashback.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this guy, basically, they're to deliver these warheads for NATO, these nanomites, and this guy tells Marlon Wayans. Marlon Wayans says, like, "Oh, I'll just take this briefcase," and he's like, "It's fine, I could throw it around and stuff." And he says, "Well, don't hit any potholes with it." Then later we see people, like, smashing people in the face. We see the nanomite briefcase in, like, a car that gets, like, thrown through the air.
Yeah,
Like,
it gets tossed around a fair bit.
Fair bit.
like, all right, but don't drive over any potholes. Inconsistent.
I'm shocked.
Yep. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about okay, Channing Tatum at this time, not a great actor, I gotta say.
Well, and the thing with this movie too is he didn't want to be Duke.
Yeah.
He wanted to be Snake Eyes. And if you look at any of the interviews he does about this movie, this is his least favorite movie that he did.
Yeah, he I read that he hated it.
Yeah. But what the hell? How the heck was he going to be Snake Eyes?
Well, there's that. It's possibly that. It's
Maybe
also,
he might have been better because Snake Eyes doesn't talk.
That's true. Well, that's a fair point.
He's definitely got
But you
that
think
deer in
about
the
it, if he
headlights
was
look.
Snake Eyes, you wouldn't have seen his face at all.
No, they
You
wouldn't.
wouldn't even know it was him.
Exactly.
And that's why Ray Park was playing him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think Ray Park would have pulled off Duke.
I honestly, I can tell you, I don't know what Ray Park looks like because I've only seen him as, like, Darth Maul and, like, this character and
Toad.
and oh, okay, Okay, I got kind of an idea.
He is not American.
No, he's got an accent, he does.
It would have been perfect then. Why not? Just do it.
Yo, Joe.
No one's half the battle.
You get it right there, Brendan. You get it right there.
Yeah, because it's a line in this movie, guys. It's a fucking shoehorned line in this movie.
Yeah, but they even say that's half the battle in this, don't they?
Oh,
They got that
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
They do.
even then, I think they only say it like maybe once.
They do,
or
because
twice.
I rolled my eyes so hard that I lost an eye, actually.
Well, he says it.
And same with Yo Joe. They say it once the entire movie. That's like their main catchphrase.
Yeah.
Well, they say it once, and then Channing Tatum later references it when he says, like, "Didn't you say that knowing was half the battle?" I was like, "Shut up."
Duh.
So also the briefcase. Okay, so as we learn too, there is a kill switch in the briefcase with the nanomites
Not engaged yet.
not engaged. Whatever, like science.
It's a wrestling reference.
Oh, okay.
They did CM Punk's entrance theme for a while. Kill switch engaged. It's also
I didn't
Christian's
sigh at the-
finisher.
I didn't sigh at the wrestling reference. I just sighed at this movie.
Oh, okay.
But-
So anyways, back to the GI Dude bros.
Yeah. So Channing Tatum and Marlon Wayans are delivering these warheads for NATO, like I said. They have this ridiculous conversation on the way there that's like, "Oh, I wonder if this is gonna set anything up." Because Marlon Wayans is all like, "I want to be in the air," and Channing
Is that how you talk, like, when you watch movies? Like, I'm glad I don't watch movies with you.
what?
Gosh, Nathan, I wonder what's gonna happen next. Shit, I don't know, Howdy Doody.
Yeah, I actually do that out loud, so that's why I watch a lot of movies by myself. Right in the theater. Gosh, Annabelle, I think that doll's haunted. But yeah, Marlon Wayans has this thing where he's like, "I want to be in the Air Force," and then Channing Tatum, I don't think understands what the Air Force is because he's like, "No, I want to be on the ground where all the fighting is."
Well, no, it's actually that old cliched bit, which is actually kind of rings true from what I've been told, whereas each branch of the military thinks they're superior to every other branch. So if you're in the Army, you're better than the Air Force, the Navy, or the Marines. And if you're in the Navy, you're better than the Air Force, and the Army, and the Marines. If you're in the blah, 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 blah.
In the Navy.
Yes, despite all the homoerotic jokes that people make about being in the Navy, the people who are in the Navy feel that they are superior to the Air Force and the Army and the Marines.
So Cobra attacks. I guess they're Cobra. Are they Cobra yet? I don't know.
No.
Not officially, no.
Okay,
Cobra doesn't even really come up until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
that's correct. But the people that are in Cobra attack in an attempt to steal the warheads.
Yes.
And we meet Sienna Miller, looking fine.
Sexpionage.
Yeah. Although I gotta
If I
say,
could call back to Nick Fury.
her sunglasses look is kind of lame. Like, she's attractive, don't get me wrong, but yeah.
They're transition lenses.
They are. I hear she got them at Vogue Optical. For her second pair, she got them for free. Yeah. I will say though that the fights, at least this one here, was actually a pretty good action set piece, and it did actually set at least some character tone, so it did accomplish something.
The explosion effects in this fight scene are actually halfway decent. Now the plane flying around is another story.
Pretty awful, yeah.
Oh, God. Well, funny thing you should mention the explosions, because apparently this movie has 250 explosions.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
There's also like a Forrest Gump moment in this scene, because Channing Tatum, like he picks up Marlon Wayans and sets him somewhere, and then he runs back like, "I gotta go get the warheads." But I think Forrest Gump was smarter than Channing Tatum in this movie, so
Well, Forrest Gump ran away, not towards.
Yes.
that's true. Already a smarter character. There's a really vicious death in this scene too. Channing Tatum stabs a guy in the face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of the Vipers.
Yeah.
Right in the eye. Right in the eye.
Right in the eye. And someone has like a VCR gun. You guys she's like rewinding stuff or something.
What? No.
Oh, that's Scarlett's crossbow.
Oh yes.
I just noticed she was like rewinding on her gun, and I was like, what?
Just being kind.
At this point, I wrote stealth.
So, never mind. I'll bring this point up later because we'll get to it.
Why were you thinking about stealth?
I have no idea. I think it was because of the giant plane and how shitty it looked.
Okay.
Now, Matt, I'll ask you this: is the G.I. Joe headquarters really in like the middle of Egypt?
No.
Okay. So that they got
They
wrong.
were the real American heroes. Why would they be in Egypt?
Yeah, not Team America World Police, where everybody is like called from the rest of the world.
Because I believe in this movie, they try to tell us it's in Egypt, where people only talk of it in whispers.
But before they take them there, the G.I. Joe bros get introduced to General Hawk, and I've got to say, this performance by Dennis Quaid, at least in this scene, is just so flat and two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Because he's a hologram.
Ah.
Ha ha ha.
I wish I
They
had
even make a point to. They even make a point to pan around and show that there's
the
like,
back that he's
yeah,
flat.
he's flat.
Why did they do that? Why did they show the back of him like that? We got it, guys. It's a hologram.
I don't feel they felt that you felt that way, Brendan, because later on in the movie, I actually asked myself, is everybody in this movie a fucking hologram?
Oh my god, yes, because that's right after this. Like, the later scene after this is when there's, like, literally 3 holograms in a row.
Yeah.
Baroness and Storm Shadow, and then they do a McCollum hologram that can actually touch things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was odd.
But he couldn't open the case.
Nope.
I didn't understand that.
The case was only... I don't know. I got nothing.
Did you catch the other... I don't know if you caught it. I'm sure Matt caught it. The other G.I. Joe reference when they've got them... I think they're taking them to the pit.
I actually did.
You did?
Yep.
With the whole...
Life.
Oh, wow. With, like, lifelike hair.
Yeah.
And real kung fu grip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Marlon Wayans, loopy in the ship. Because basically, the G.I. Joes come down and save them. Save Channing Tatum, Marlon Wayans, because the rest of their crew has been wiped out, and essentially force them to go with them to meet with General Hawk again. Like you said, I know you joked about Dennis Quaid giving like a 2D performance, but honestly, he does give a pretty flat performance in this movie.
Yeah.
Like
I have a note here about Marlon Wayans, and it says, Marlon Wayans, you can act. Why don't you? Like, he was in, was it Requiem for a Dream?
Yeah.
And he's, like, fantastic in that movie. It's, like, one of the best acting gigs he's ever done, and he's never done it again.
Well, next to A Haunted House, too.
Right. Moving on.
Okay. So they're in the plane with the Joes, and Channing Tatum has known these people for literally 5 minutes, and he's like, I want in.
Yeah. Well... They recruited him previously.
Well, they tried to,
They tried
right?
to recruit him before, and he turned it down or something like that.
He was going...
I thought it was because he was too emotional or something.
Yeah, he was going through a lot, guys. Sienna Miller. He accidentally killed Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Poor Rex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the point where I noted, holy Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow effects.
Oh, that movie.
The effects in this movie are just, whew.
Yeah.
I get it was 2009, but come on.
Effects were a lot better than what they used.
Yes, this is like some Asylum Sci-Fi Channel stuff.
Oh, man. Like, I've seen movies... Like, Star Wars was made in 1977 that had better special effects than this movie.
Yeah, and, Phantom Menace came out, like, almost 10 years prior to this.
Yeah.
And despite what you may think of the goings-on in that movie, the effects are kind of top-notch.
No, they are. They're, like, as good as they could have been in 1999.
Yeah. And yet, still way better than this movie put out in 2009.
So we go back to our villain. We quickly find out that our villain is Groundskeeper Willie.
I don't remember Destro having such a thick Scottish accent in the other cartoons and stuff like that. And not in the comics either, because when I read it, he didn't have that thick Scottish accent. They should have known that when they made this movie.
And I looked him up. I looked up the actor, Christopher Eccleston, and he's a British man, so he's just doing a terrible Scottish accent.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in Gone in 60 Seconds, and he was one of the doctors from Doctor Who.
And he basically shows up and he's like, "Oh, ya wee maggots!" Like, it's so.
You threw the cable right out of the yard on that one.
Grease me up, woman.
And there was one point where he actually mentioned the guy, like somebody doing so well, they tossed the cable right out of the yard. I have a note that said, "See, get it? He's Scottish."
Good lad. I programmed my machines with Celtic.
Can you imagine a single arms manufacturer doing that? Let's use a very seldomly used language as the command language for our stealth fighters.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just put
the
in
whole Mars thing. Actually, is from the comics, though. That was the front that Cobra used to fund everything that they did.
Yeah.
So I was kind of happy to see that. It's a very subtle thing in the comics. If you don't really pay attention to it, you wouldn't see it.
But you can't help but pay attention to it in this movie.
It's mentioned every freaking 5 seconds.
Mars is all over the place.
Oh yeah. Every gun you see has the
Mars logo, yeah.
So, this movie, guys, this fucking movie, a lot of holograms, like you said,
holograms.
Because we get. Can we just call him Willie?
Oh, you wee tune boy.
So we got old Willie here talking to the Baroness, who's also a hologram. And basically telling them to, the plot is so convoluted. She has like a fake husband.
Who's a baron.
That's why she's called the Baroness.
That's why she's the Baroness.
Yep.
Yeah, they couldn't just say couldn't say that it's like a nifty, awesome code name for her.
But she was engaged to Duke.
Right.
Which...
When she was a blonde.
Where the hell did that come from? Because that's nowhere's in the comics or the old cartoon.
Well, that's because they wanted to give Channing Tatum a lady.
Scarlet.
Yeah. No,
Scarlet,
but
Scarlet a hoe.
Yes, actually, Matt explained this one to me earlier. Scarlet gets around.
Yes. She gets around the G.I. Joe headquarters.
G.I. Ho.
So in the comics, she's with Snake Eyes. In the cartoon, she's with Duke. In the movie, she's with Ripcord.
Yeah. Inexplicably. That relationship was strange.
To say the least.
So he says, so Willie, the holograms, we get Dennis Quaid saying, "Knowing is half the battle," or that's half the battle, or whatever.
Yes, that's half the battle.
We find out that Willie is evil, and he's planted a tracker in the warheads, and he's going to take them back. And what's his end goal here? Like, his thing was to have them steal it, and then take it back and like blame NATO for it.
Yes, because he wanted all the heads of the governments to lose faith in NATO, because NATO's like an alliance of countries, but it's like it's not necessarily a governing body, but if people lost confidence in NATO being the ones with the weapons that are going to be protecting everybody, they would all want their own warheads. So they'd be buying more warheads directly as opposed to giving the funding to NATO to buy them. And NATO, it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It really only governs our portion, really, of the world, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he would have been fine selling to Korea, folks in the Asia-Pacific area, all those places. I mean, why he's focusing directly on NATO is beyond me.
I think it's because the screenwriters said, hey, people know what NATO is. Let's put that in.
That's a fair point. My wife also noticed that apparently Storm Shadow was the inventor of the fidget spinner.
Yes! When he took out that star, that's exactly what I thought it was at first.
And he's just spinning it around like a fidget spinner.
Yeah, that's totally what got those Storm Shadow.
See, he didn't
got
have to
those fidget
get in-
spinners hot.
Well, that's what I was saying. He didn't even have to join an international terrorist organization. He should have just patented that. He would have made millions, and he wouldn't have to worry about fighting Snake Eyes ever.
You imagine when he has that line, it's like, fear is a great motivator. Hey, look what I've got. This is a good idea.
You know, the guys, I'm going to see the...
I'll be right back. I'm going to the U.S. Patent Office.
He just never shows up for the rest of the movie.
He just disappears. So, guys, Joseph Gordon-Levitt shows up now.
Yes.
Or, I don't know if it is him. It's definitely his voice. Like, is it him, like, actually walking around?
I would guess. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's like, you know what, I'll just phone it in.
Well,
Just
actually,
let me do it in post.
he was really excited to do it, and he's the one that convinced Channing Tatum to sign on, apparently.
Oh, really?
That's what I
Well,
read.
there you go.
Yeah. But, I would like...
He's had an interesting career, that Joseph Gordon-Levitt. What a guy.
I genuinely like that guy, but I want to ask Matt how close his portrayal of... Oh, who is he even playing?
Rex.
Rex, the doctor or whatever. How close is that? Is
I
that
don't know what they called him before he became Cobra Commander. I don't recall ever. They just called him Doctor.
yeah?
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that's
He
what.
was
Yeah.
Some doctor. Yeah.
Does he have any connection to Duke at all?
No.
But
they he wasn't Baroness's brother. Yeah, Baroness's brother in anything either. Like, it's...
and you had said that in one of the comics that they had written him as Snake
there-
Eyes' brother.
There's a couple different origins, yeah, depending on what version of the comic you watch or you read. One of the origins for him that I didn't even know about, I just read about it yesterday actually, was that he was Snake Eyes' brother, and their parents were killed in a car accident, and
By
the whole by Storm Shadow.
What in the world?
Yeah, and the whole origin was that they became vigilantes, Cobra Commander and Snake Eyes, and then Cobra was persuaded to the dark side, and he wanted to go after the person that killed their parents, and Snake Eyes wouldn't go with him and wouldn't kill the person. He wanted to just bring the person to justice, and then what ends up happening is Cobra Commander goes after the person that killed their parents, but then eventually hires him as the assassin to kill Snake
you
Eyes.
following this, Brendan?
So
You got your flow charts out?
so what you mean is
If yes, then this.
the movie was accurate? Is what you said? That's what I got. But the doctor shows up, and I kind of like what he's doing with the voice, honestly. He's kind of doing something, like, at least a little bit... I feel like he's trying to do something different. Like
That's right with Cobra Commander. He's always had, like, a different voice.
Yeah.
He's never had... Like, even when he just had the hood mask, his voice was always different.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, they gave him the reason with that respirator that he was wearing, right?
Yeah, he's basically Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I noted that he wasn't star screamy enough.
What?
Cobra!
Well,
That's what he should have sounded like.
well, that's what I read, too, is that he wanted to
I was
base
quite
it...
upset that battle cry wasn't in the movie at all.
I know.
I had read that he wanted to base it partly on the original voice of the cartoons, but he wanted to tone it down a bit, too.
If that's the case, that's the only bit of subtlety in this movie.
Oh, yeah, no, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a fine actor, and he's making choices in this movie. Channing Tatum, I don't think knows what a choice is in this movie. And, like, here's another character, like, I'm sure he's cool and, like, interesting in the cartoons, but Storm Shadow, like, I don't give a shit about him in this movie.
See, yeah, that in the cartoons, at least the cartoons that I watched when I was a kid, he was always like a badass. Like, when I was a kid, when I watched the cartoons, when I got the chance to, Snake Eyes was always... He was the one I was interested in, and so because of that, with his thing with Storm Shadow, he was always... that was any stories that featured that were heavy on both of those characters, I was on board for.
In the comic books, Snake Eyes is actually the main character.
Makes perfect sense because he's the coolest friggin' character.
Yeah. He's actually the main character, and he's the one that all the tragedy is surrounded in the comic books. Everything branches off from him into G.I. Joe and into Cobra, but he is actually the main character in that.
There you go.
I feel like that was that.
Now we know. And knowing is half the battle.
Nerds. I feel like that would have been a hard sell. Can we make Ray Park the star of our movie?
Oh, the fanboys would have revolted because he had a mouth on his mask.
Oh, good lord.
They legit apparently did. They hated the fact that his mask had a mouth.
Well,
so the two main complaints from the fanboys in this movie was the fact that Snake Eyes had a mouth on his mask, and the mask that they eventually gave Cobra Commander at the end of the movie. And if you look at the next movie, they actually fix both of those things.
So Snake Eyes talks in the second one.
No, they took the mouth off the mask.
Oh, okay.
And actually, if you look at the photo that you put up, which is the DVD cover,
yeah,
they actually have taken the mouth off his mask in that photo.
What the hell? It's like the marketing team is like, guys, we're not gonna sell any copies unless we take that damn mouth off. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the doctor, whatever, does this weird example of what the nanomites can do to people's blood, because this guy gets bitten by a cobra,
right?
Yep.
And all the scars look like cobras. Yes.
And the nanomites basically heal him and make them make them able
They're
to do
impervious
anything.
to poisoning and getting sick and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not worried about anything basically.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a severed head wouldn't do them any flavors.
No.
It's supposed to be like a super soldier, which in the cartoon and the comic books, the Vipers were not super soldiers; they were pussies.
There was actually at one point where they got the super soldiers fighting, and one of them gets scared. I was like, wait a second.
Wait, really?
Yeah, there's one where he screams, and I'm like, wait, he's not supposed to be scared of anything, and also have no pain centers.
Oh.
So
This movie has a couple of inconsistencies.
can we push on to the part where Brendan Fraser shows up?
Well, before we do that, I want to ask about the line.
I missed that actually.
About Storm Shadow just randomly telling the Baroness, "You were my best student."
Yes.
Never visited upon again.
No flashback ever of him training her.
That's the only backstory that there isn't anything.
And then we do get a flashback.
And how is she a student when she's supposed to be like a right hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And then we get a flashback to the proposal between Channing Tatum and Sienna Miller in Happier Times.
And Marlon Wayans is so happy.
Marlon Wayans says they look like the little white couple on the wedding cake. Yes, Brendan Fraser. What were they thinking? Star
Alum.
is back.
Yep.
Yep. And he...
Because this is the point of the movie where we need a montage.
And this pretty much represents how I feel about this movie, because it's the worst remix of, bang a gong, get it on. But it's yo, bang a gong, get it on. It's all this, terrible rapping in the background. And I'm just ugh. You could have just played the song. It would have worked fine. And then, yeah, Brendan Fraser is randomly in this movie. What was that?
What you mean? How do we make this movie even better? Put Brendan Fraser in there because he is a delight.
You know what? Brendan Fraser, best performance in the movie.
Well, I'm not gonna argue. I mean,
He only had 15 seconds to work with.
he was riding an ATV. It was awesome.
Actually, little thing about Brendan Fraser, the director of this movie, Stephen Sommers, also did
The Mummy.
Yeah, and The Mummy Returns. And I guess Brendan Fraser basically begged him to give him some kind of role in this movie, no matter how small it was.
There was 3 Mummy alums in this movie, 4 if you count the director.
Yeah, we haven't talked about him yet, but Arnold Vosloo is Zartan, another villain.
Yep.
And
Benny from The Mummy. He was the doctor that Rex gets kind of locked in the bunker with.
Dr. Mindbender.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, he's very briefly on screen. That's right.
Yeah.
5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds.
Isn't it amazing?
I will just say here, there are way too many characters in this fucking movie.
Well, when you got a toy line as large as G.I. Joe, you gotta shoehorn some stuff in, right?
Yep. So Brendan Fraser teaches them how to fight with batons, which we never see again.
Okay.
We don't, do we?
Look, we needed Brendan Fraser. That's all. That's where we're gonna put it there. That's where we're gonna leave it at. We needed Brendan. This movie needed more Brendan Fraser.
At this point,
I had a fever, and there was only one cure for it. More Brendan Fraser.
Well, then maybe you should have watched a Monkey Bone.
Oh, or The Mummy.
Yeah. Or The Mummy Returns.
Maybe.
Or Furry Vengeance.
No.
So Brendan Fraser shows up and then disappears off the face of the earth again. And...
much like his career.
Yeah, Jesus, where the
Poor
hell
guy.
has he been? So, Marlon Wayans is, like, seriously horning after, what's her name? Scarlet.
Scarlet.
And he mentions, like, she graduated college at 12 years old.
Yes.
Come on, movie.
Doogie did it at 16 for med school.
Yeah,
so.
but Scarlet is real. Doogie is not.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say she's a girl.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know how to feel that you assumed that that's what I was gonna say.
Well, you know, you are what you put out there, Brendan. I'm just gonna say.
We also find out that Marlon is a terrible soldier because they're going through this training thing, and he's like, "Yeah, if we average your scores, you'd pass."
You'd pass too, yeah.
And
With a big sick math burn from General.
But the whole montage, he's actually doing like really good and everything.
He's getting better and better and better. Like
he's doing really good, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, well, if we average you're good.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like, thanks, Dick. For a second when you were saying the general's name, I thought you were gonna say General Deuce.
General. No, I was not going to. Shout out to XWA alums.
Deuce.
Anyhow,
yeah.
this is the part of the movie where they try to hide the terrible visual effects by putting like really dark filters on everything.
But we also get Scarlet and her weird relationship line. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, where she's got like that science burn on him because
If you can't
she's
study or quantify it.
it doesn't exist.
Yeah. And Marlon Wayne's like, all right, I don't understand words.
I would have been like, you're insane.
Yeah, no, right there. Give up that pursuit, Marlon Wayans.
No, she's insane because it is something that can be quantified just because you can't touch them. Emotions and feelings have been studied for nigh on millennia.
Oh, no, but I mean, like, if I'm Marlon Wayans, that's where I'm stopping.
Oh, because she's insane.
Yeah.
She's batshit crazy.
Yeah, there you go.
Batshit crazy. So, yeah, the effects come in because the not Cobras attack the G.I. Joe base.
The pit.
After the mass. Oh, this is my favorite part because we get like we said, Arnold Vosloo as Zartan, who is a master of disguise. Now,
And is he really a jolly good fellow?
oh my God, they play that as much as possible. So he whistles that tune as much as possible because guess what? It's going to come up later. But my thing is, he's supposed to be a master of disguise, and like his thing is like he puts the guy's uniform on and he just walks around with it on. Like that's his mastery.
He pulls the hat down.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
but
pulls the
like,
hat
like, and like later, it's like he's like on a camel. Like that's his like whole disguise gimmick.
And you wouldn't even know it was him, but they make him whistle the damn song again.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, they show the guy dead too.
Well, yes.
that's true. But like, I love how
You wouldn't have known it was him unless he whistled.
I just love how he's like, I studied. I'm a master of disguise. I take it very seriously. And then he just puts the dude's hat on. It's like, what the fuck? But yeah, big invasion.
But there was a real fun. You'd mentioned the Mystery Science Theater earlier. During the whole fight and everything, there was a point where I actually kind of geeked out in the Mystery Science Theater way again when they tried to kill someone with a forklift.
Oh yeah, Marlon Wayans.
Tried to kill me with a forklift.
Oh my god. This is just
And then-
a bunch of shit.
Don't forget the ninjas.
What?
Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes have a bit of a duke out.
And
Duke.
they
Poor cover girl gets killed
yeah,
here too.
Cover Girl. That's her actual name.
Yeah, that was supposed to be cover girl.
Okay. Is she supposed to be like played by a supermodel?
Yeah, that was the whole gimmick in the comic books, was that she was supposed to be like the best looking female Joe. So they called her cover girl.
This has more characters shoehorned in than Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh my god, I don't ever want to
See, they
watch
fixed that in
again.
Retaliation, though. They just
Killed
kill
everybody.
everybody.
Yeah, guys, don't
There's
get
only 3 characters after that.
don't get too attached. If you watch the second one, don't get too attached to Duke because he dies 10 minutes into the second one.
Yep.
You're being generous.
Maybe 10 minutes? 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the most annoying sequel thing, I think. Like, we're gonna make you care about this character for 2 friggin' hours, or at least try to. And then in the next movie, guess what? So sad, he's dead.
But apparently, they had to reshoot the second one with a bunch of stuff because everyone was so upset about everyone getting offed in like the first 5 minutes of it.
Wait, what do you mean?
That tells you there's no third movie coming.
Yeah.
Unless somebody reboots it.
Which I'm actually legitimately surprised because both movies were very profitable. But maybe they just thought because the critics and fans hated them so much that they were like, well, we burned them.
And there were so many Wilhelm screams during this fight.
Oh, yeah.
And then this was the fight where like I asked, why were they screaming in fear?
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're supposed to be, like, fearless going into battle.
There was a cool Predator fight and jetpacks, though. So, this movie, the fight scenes really are the fight scenes that you would have come up with whilst playing G.I. Joes with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Storm Shadow, he's got a jetpack, and he's gonna fly away.
What's with that weird exchange when Zartan kills Cover Girl, and then he looks at Storm Shadow and he's like, "Oh yeah, you don't kill women."
Yes, but with for Zartan, Storm Shadow would make an exception.
Right. But that's never That's never like touched on again.
Yeah, it's never mentioned, but the backstory with Storm Shadow is that he won't kill a woman.
Okay.
And here's the thing with that. That's again something that you're left to deduce as a viewer. They could have done a lot of that with this movie. Just let people deduce. Duke and Baroness used to be an item. Mm-hmm. We didn't need to see the proposal or all the other crap that went along with it.
No. And with this scene, you could just have them exchange a look, like a certain kind of look, and then there you go. Right there, he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Like, done and done. This I feel like Stephen Summers accidentally filmed description as dialogue.
I don't feel the line hurts it too much. If they had gone with like a flashback to show why Storm Shadow doesn't kill women, that would have been a bit much.
They did not need another flashback. Holy shit, there's way too many flashbacks.
I will say this though, at least with the flashbacks, they weren't played out like all in order sort of thing. Where, you're the flashback lasts 10, 15 minutes on end of the movie.
There's a couple, though, that, they come in out of nowhere, like an RKO, and I'm literally, I literally was like, wait, did we just go back in time, or is this still the same scene?
Yeah.
It just comes out of nowhere, like an RKO.
Or like an RKO, yes. Ripcord does have a nice little tender moment where he helps Scarlet.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Helps her understand, that, she fought. It wasn't her fault that everybody got killed and attacked and everything.
Yeah, they have
There were jetpacks!
I thought you were going to do, a Willem Dafoe. There was a firefight!
There was a firefight! Hell rained down on suburbia.
This is one of my favorite parts, though.
I will
because...
say this. No, just before.
Oh, sorry.
Just
Go ahead.
Before you say
Yep.
that, Ripcord's his advice is tub thumping.
Yes, I wrote that down too. Marlon is tub thumping. That's exactly
He's
what
like, you get back down, you get back up again. If he had followed that up with "they're never gonna keep us down," I would have been like, "Nope, done. I'm done watching this movie."
And then the best would have been if he said that and they didn't like make a joke out of it, and it was like
Like, he just
legitimate
delivered it
advice.
straight.
Yeah. And she's like, "Wow, that's really good advice." But this is my favorite part. Only
Snake Eyes flashback.
only because of one detail. When we have another flashback, and it's Snake Eyes, who is inexplicably in Japan, and and so it's very young Snake Eyes and very young Storm Shadow. But before that even happens, there's Storm Shadow's like master has like a giant, like comically oversized bowl of rice. Like, it's the biggest, like most ridiculous thing ever.
Well, they're in the kitchen for the monastery though?
I know, but just seeing it, I was like, okay, we're in Japan. Like, I get it, guys.
Oh, okay. I will say this was the second best kitchen fight I'd seen in a movie.
This backstory is the most accurate out of the whole movie.
Wow.
To the comics.
Good to know.
Interesting. So, and it's like, it's probably like plot E. It's
Yes.
like there's like
Now,
8 subplots.
Again, I guess
This is the spin-off that's going to happen now, because Storm Shadow and...
Yeah.
Well, I suppose Storm Shadow's dead now, isn't he?
to be fair, with these, the characters interacting, they always did have a certain amount of offshooting stories, things going on that just kind of crisscrossed into the main fray of the story, at least with the not the comics, but the cartoons and things like that. So it is accurate that they would do this sort of thing with this movie. However, it gets to be at some point so convoluted that you're like, this would have been, I don't know, it almost like feels like it would have been better if they had done this as like a Netflix series now, if they want to do live action.
Yeah. 100%. That's what it would be now.
I suppose, yeah.
Also, this scene with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, like the flashback, it's basically the exact same origin story for Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport.
Almost, except that
Well,
the nice sensei in Bloodsport, his son doesn't try to kill Jean-Claude Van Damme.
No, but I mean, the whole thing with him breaking in and then getting fed and then getting trained and then getting better, it felt very Bloodsport to me.
Okay.
This is also where Willie explains to us the opening scene, even though we saw it like an hour ago.
Right, and he's Destro, get it? He's Destro.
Destro! Can I say Destro?
He's the destroyer of the worlds.
I'll say Destro a few more times.
But, so they're setting up Zartan with the nanos, but, or that ship, what was it?
It's the nano.
Yeah, but he's like, I'll control my own mind, thanks. So he doesn't take the mind control portion of it. He just takes the nanites so he can, change the way he looks.
Yeah, he throws away the little memory card thing.
Yeah.
And also, isn't this the same plot in Captain America 1990? Like, weren't they trying to take over the president?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, it's an influential film.
Where was Matt Salinger when we really needed him?
I think I'm gonna be sick. So Channing Tatum, dumbass Channing Tatum, finally figures out that Willie is evil because he must have put a tracker in the briefcase.
Oh yes, but the funny thing is, all the stuff that they were talking about, it wasn't the tracker. He didn't put a tracker in it. It was the code. When the code he used to open the case activated a tracker.
Yeah.
Well, now Groundskeeper Willie does tell them all about this, or rather, Groundskeeper Destro tells them all about this. But nobody makes mention of it and anything like that, and they start basically just kind of jumping to these conclusions. It's just baseless accusations slandering the good name of Destro.
Yeah, he was the hero of this film.
Yes.
Guess what, guys? We got another fucking flashback. Because this is where Channing Tatum, fucking Channing Tatum, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are fighting in the war, and he sends Joseph into a building to his death, basically, to do something. I don't know. Get something. Some kind of.
He was going in and that's where they were first developing the nanonites,
right?
Or nanomites.
Also,
so he went in, and then they ordered the airstrike. So he only had 4 minutes to get into the building.
But the airstrike came early. It's too early. It's too early.
But it's funny because when you compare this scene to later when we see what he actually did in the building, it is not the same amount of time. Like,
actually, I have a bit here where Channing Tatum does actually some of the best acting in the entire movie, where he acts like a person who legitimately enjoys double bubble bubblegum.
Well, don't forget about
double bubble sucks. Like, super hard sucks. It is the worst bubblegum other than Thrills gum, okay?
All right, you know what? Now we're not going to be able to get a sponsorship from Double Bubble or Thrills.
They should have used Bazooka.
Or Bazooka would have been that would have been a great one, actually. A nice little tie-in with the munitions there and everything. Yeah, we're not getting sponsored by Double Bubble. We're not getting sponsored by Thrills. Or if you remember correctly from our last podcast, we're not getting sponsored by Miller Genuine Draft either.
Yeah, or Pepsi. So
what did I say about Pepsi?
Probably some stuff. So, but the best part of the flashback is Channing Tatum's doing that motorcycle sunglasses in the rain morning at a funeral. That is my favorite, like, cliche. That's like right out of like Hot Shots. Like,
but that's another bit that they could have used for that Team America thing, because
right.
Remember when they're riding around, they're playing that Ben Affleck Sucks song.
Yeah. I miss you more than G.I. Joe. Miss the point. Yeah, so Double Bubble has some sort of connection to G.I. Joe, right? Because otherwise it's just a random ad in the middle of the movie.
Do they? That's the thing. Do they?
I thought it was like a thing where that French dude always chews gum.
Yes, but the actual name of it.
No,
does it? It does. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Double Bubble. In fact, I am pretty sure Double Bubble were like, you know what, our gum kind of sucks. Should we improve the flavor, the taste, or the consistency? No, just get some product placement and people will buy it.
Yeah, and also, I gotta say, it's so unrealistic because have you ever heard, like, okay, it's probably happened before, but generally, do you hear people when they go, do you have any gum? They don't go, oh, do you have any Double Bubble? Or do you have any Excel Spearmint?
No, they just the gum.
Yeah.
But he notices, because when Channing Tatum is unwrapping that piece, he's like, Double Bubble? No one has ever been that excited about Double Bubble gum, ever.
Maybe it's...
Breaker doesn't lead a very exciting life, so...
Okay, I'll give you that.
Maybe it's a France thing.
They do like a lot of things that are terrible.
He does get very upset when France is under attack, like more than anyone else.
And he's Moroccan, isn't he?
Oh, I thought... Because
yeah,
the way
he's Moroccan.
Well, look at me. I'm country...
Well, no, he's French-Moroccan, but you're right, he is...
Because Ripcord actually calls him Frenchie or something like that in the movie, and he corrects him, and he gets all offended saying he's Moroccan.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just countryist. We get another hallmark of the movies we do here on this podcast, was we get a lot of unnecessary explosions with, like, no reason whatsoever.
So many dead civilians.
Yes. Okay, because this scene is where, so now that they've invaded the Joe's pit and killed CoverGirl and wounded General Hawk, Dennis Quaid, they have the warheads, the nanomites, and they go to Baroness's French husband to...
The Baron.
Yeah, to weaponize them.
And that's how you weaponize things. You spin them around.
Yeah, with lights.
With lights, yep.
Yeah. And once they weaponize them, Storm Shadow kills the Baron because...
He touches the Baroness.
I know, it's...
Now, to be fair, he did that on the orders of Destro.
Or
Destro.
So
Groundskeeper Destro.
Stupid. It's so stupid. Because, like, it doesn't.
I was actually kind of upset with Storm Shadow using guns. I just have a note here: lazy ninja.
Very lazy.
Lazy ninja.
Snake Eyes use guns too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a gaijin, so
He doesn't use his fidget spinner nearly enough. But it doesn't, like, I don't understand her, like, motivation for wanting the Baron dead. Like, I know she doesn't really care about him, but, like, I don't know.
well,
Why
I think
even
it's
bother?
supposed to represent that she's emotionless.
Yeah. But, I mean,
So-
why purposely kill him? You know what I mean? Because she, like, grabs him and makes out with him. And makes out with the Baron. Storm Shadow kills the Baron and says, yo, McCullen said I'd have to kill him if he touched
told
you.
Yeah, and she was like, I know.
I heard you the
I
first
heard
time.
you first time.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's so like, she says it's so, like, menacing, and I'm just like, what? Why was that your end goal? She's like, I killed French husband. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this is a scene in France. I don't like this action scene. I gotta say, not a big fan.
You don't like the accelerator scenes?
No, not really.
What do they accelerate? You.
They're just matrixing their way through missiles.
Yep.
And Marlon Wayans does a bit of, like, Chevy Chase, Buster Keaton physical comedy.
Oh, yeah, so the slapstick.
Those suits cost $1 million. Whoa! Fuck me.
What was all the quipping?
So much quipping.
It got to the point where I was just like, this is just, it's insufferable.
Yeah. At least it wasn't as much quipping as, like, last movie we did, but it's...
Oh, yeah. To be fair, though, they didn't have as much time to, or enough space to shoehorn in all the quips because they were too busy shoehorning in all of the toys and the characters from the comics and cartoons.
Although...
And all the cool gadgets that they used.
Although, you know what line in Bad Boys 2 still would have worked in this scene?
What's that?
They throw in cars!
They throw in cars, yes.
Because Snake Eyes is just, like, dodging cars, jumping over them, and trying to kill Storm Shadow, and Channing Tatum and Marlon Wayans are trying to stop the Eiffel Tower from being blown up, and everything's going on at once.
Then Team America gets arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Eiffel Tower, by the way, guys, in this movie, the Eiffel Tower gets destroyed.
Just like in Team America World Police.
Oh,
actually, I think we're getting a correction call here.
Oh, okay. You want to get that?
Just a second.
Okay.
No, I don't want to talk to that guy.
Call from Marlon Wayans.
You making fun of my movie?
You better not ever do Haunted House 2 on this show. So Storm...
Well, see, here's the thing with that. I know exactly what they were thinking. Let's make a terrible, slapsticky movie with Marlon Wayans.
Yeah. Done and done. Episode over.
Yeah.
So Storm Shadow... Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's set up as a pretty nasty, like, killing machine, right? Like,
Yes.
He's supposed to be an assassin.
he's a bad motherfucker. And he's killed tons of
Right.
people. So what does he do when he's fighting Marlon Wayans? He hits him with spaghetti sauce. A pot full of spaghetti sauce, and then runs away.
He's a lazy ninja, I told you.
You also, you mentioned Team America gets arrested here, but you also skipped another great line. Dead guy don't break dance.
I actually have that noted.
Because this is the science in this movie. Frenchie Martin puts this device.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's one. There's a reach.
Let's back up the culturally insensitive caboose here for a second.
Well,
Calm down with that.
Hold on, Frenchie Martin was a gimmick. Was a manager in wrestling. That wasn't meant as a.
At least preface it then, okay?
That was a wrestling reference, guys. Real person's fake name. But anyway, Moroccan Martin.
Hey, thank you, Brendan.
You're welcome. Moroccan Martin hooks up this device to one of the dead soldiers and somehow sees his, like, what he saw before he died. And then Marlon Wayans is saying, "Are you sure he's dead?" Because he's moving. And he says, "Dead guy don't break dance."
They use the same questionable science in. I've seen it used in other movies too.
Wild Wild West.
Did they use it in Wild Wild West?
Yeah, they checked his eyeballs.
Okay, and they did the. I think they did it with. What show was it? Constantine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think they don't use. It's not just like a minute, but they bring somebody back to life and use them as a guide in, I think, Hellboy as well.
Yeah.
So there we go. So it's not questionable science. I mean, it's been used in Hellboy and Constantine. So legit fact. You can read dead people's last memories.
Is this science from the source material at all?
I never seen that.
You can see the look of disdain on his face when he said that. It would have been fantastic.
Can we get Craig in here with the camera? Craig, oh no, he's not doing it.
Oh, he's union. It's not his day.
Yeah, he's got to take his 4-hour lunch, so he'll be back in a bit. Marlon Wayans is just quipping. I just have this thing that just says like Marlon Wayans is just quipping nonstop, and it's just making me angry. Long way from Miami.
Yep.
So they get arrested. Channing Tatum hits the kill switch by jumping into the plane where they are holding the warhead. So the Eiffel Tower does get destroyed, but he basically saves the rest of France. And we go to the North Pole.
Because of course.
Because why not?
Well, G.I. Joe is in Egypt, so Cobra's the opposite of G.I. Joe, so they gotta be somewhere as cold.
Now where
Matt just unlocked the movie for us.
hot and cold, that's the ultimate struggle.
Exactly.
Where's Cobra from, or actually? Like, where's their base supposed to be?
They're always in rainforests.
Oh my god!
In the cartoons.
So they went a completely opposite way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie hurts. I was getting like nicks.
Yeah. In the cartoons and comics, they were always like rainforest, swamp areas.
You know, Brendan, I know it probably feels like we've been talking about this movie for like 4 hours now. It's only been about an hour and 5 minutes.
This movie is fucking awful, guys. Don't watch it. Just don't.
Let's push forward with the Robo-Fish. And the Lady of the Lake.
If we have
and
to.
A terrible getaway. I'm just reading my notes, hoping to speed things along.
Well, first, so Channing Tatum gets taken by not Cobra, and Groundskeeper Willie is smart enough not to reveal his entire plan, but then he sees the Doctor, who reveals the entire plan, and another flashback. Guys,
yes, and this is where we see that Benny was there in the desert with them.
Did you notice? Okay, so they flash back to Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the building, which of course the times don't match up. Did you notice though what pops up on the computer?
No, who's that?
Benny has Norton antivirus security.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, Cisco Systems did apparently the communications for the pit. I noticed that product placement earlier too, and for some reason I have a Coke commercial.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't remember the Coke, but yeah. But yeah, it just pops on the screen. Norton security.
And this is where you see Dr. Mindbender, and in the cartoons and the comic books, Dr. Mindbender is like a very important part of Cobra. And here it's just like he's some wacky dude stuck in a shack.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, 5 minutes is generous.
That's very generous.
Like maybe 90 seconds. Yeah, so this is he goes into it, and it's so weird because like we know that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is supposed to be like a very smart person already, but when
he's almost like a Quaker type because he's just there in the field.
Yeah,
he doesn't shoot anybody or anything like that.
But he goes into this shack and like he forgets that he's
got a gun out.
Yeah, he forgets that he's in the middle of a war zone, and he's like,
let's send the medic in to sweep and clear a building. That's good military procedure.
And also he's just like so fascinated by this that he doesn't want to leave, even though he knows the airstrike is coming in.
Yeah.
And then Mindbender locks the door.
What are you doing?
If we survive, I will teach you.
And we're totally, you know, we're gypped of that whole thing.
So they obviously survived because now he knows, like he knows.
And knowing
all this
is
stuff.
half the battle.
But what the hell ever happened to Dr. Mindbender?
Yeah, did he just die? Because we don't even like get an explanation.
Well, maybe that was one of the 3,000 cut flashbacks.
Man, they could probably make an entire movie of all the flashbacks in the movie.
We didn't make note of this earlier, but the guy who played Adabisi is in this movie.
Yes!
And he's like super British, and he is also another Mummy alum because he was in The Mummy Returns.
Oh my god. Well, I know why we didn't mention him. It's because he doesn't do anything.
Well, he says bloody hell a lot.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, my bad.
And he looks like Blade in one of the scenes.
Oh, Adabisi.
Would have been a way better Blade.
He should have just played Adabisi in this movie.
With the little hat cooked to the side and everything.
Oh, I was always so impressed watching that show. I was like, how does he keep that damn hat on?
Oh, I think I have it. My note at this point really kind of sums up everything that's happening in this movie. What is going on?
The last 30 minutes is like the worst. It's just like, yeah, so much shit is going on. The doctor tells like a 25-minute story about what happened with him, about how he's Joseph Gordon-Levitt and he's like Baroness's brother. Yeah. And then Baroness shows up because she's actually being controlled by nanomites.
Right.
And she helps him subdue the doctor, and then he has her under control, and then fucking groundskeeper Willie shows up, and like, oh, just like, stop.
Maybe I don't know, I got my notes. Here's the 3 notes that I have at this point in the movie. What is going on? Just stab it. And facts of life shot. Oh, I know what the facts of life shot is. That's where all the underwater fights are going on.
Yeah, and you mentioned something. I'd like you to mention the thing about the ice.
Ice floats.
Stephen Summers.
Oh, when they explode the polar ice.
Yes, and it sinks.
It sinks.
Stephen Summers, ice floats. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you heard it here first because it wasn't in your fucking movie.
Well, okay, I think I'm getting back on track here because at this point here, they take the president to put him in his bunker,
which says Mars on it.
Right, because again, as Matt had said in the cartoons and comics, it was real subtle that Mars was there. In this movie, not at all.
Also, when Baroness saves Channing Tatum and knocks out the doctor, she's like, we don't have much time, so then they start making out. Like, it's literally right after she says we don't have much time. So he's like, well, we better spend that time macking.
Well, yeah. What else are you going to do?
Gotta make up for lost time.
Right.
Right. There's nothing pressing going on.
Except their lips.
Because
they're pressing them together there.
To form one of them kisses there.
Right.
Right.
Is it kind of interesting that they saved the Russians first in this movie?
No, they saved Beijing first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Snake Eyes blows up the Beijing stuff
okay,
first.
so either way, they saved the communists first.
And China.
Yes.
Yeah.
China and Russia get saved first before...
I just wanted to say...
Before the real American heroes save America.
Well, yeah, because they're selfless. Everybody in this movie is very humble.
You know what the worst part about... Well, I don't know if I can narrow it all down.
I was going to say, good luck.
The worst part of this section coming up is when they're in the bunker. You've already known, oh, it's a Mars bunker, so something's amiss. And then the president's in there, his guys get shot, and he just turns and he's like, he's got this look of horror on his face. I'm like, it's Zartan.
Yeah.
It's the worst because I was like, it's Zartan. I don't know why they even bothered doing that mysterious thing because everyone knows it's Zartan.
Well, here's the thing. I watched this twice, and
unfortunate.
Yeah, but the first time I watched it, I didn't even catch on to that because I kept like zoning out. So I was like, at the end when he's just humming, I was like, why are we ending with the president just singing? That's a weird ending.
He was like, it was so hard not to play Candy Crush while I watched this movie.
Yeah. Do anything. I was reading about the history of logs.
In your log?
Yeah.
In your log.
Log.
Okay.
My Bob Lob
Did
log.
you put it on your blog?
Yeah, my Bob Lob log.
There you go.
Okay. So this is like the last like 30 minutes, a lot of shit happens, but like not a lot of shit happens. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
They have a Death Star battle underwater.
Yep.
They give closure to so many origin stories.
Death by fidget spinner.
Yeah. Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes have their big fight. Which I know, spoiler alert for the second movie, Storm Shadow comes back, but Snake Eyes stabs him in the chest, and then he falls into the, like, ice-cold water. How the fuck does he come back?
Ninja vanish.
Well, I was gonna say hypersleep through cryogenics.
Okay, so Walt Disney?
It's ice cold water. Yeah.
Oh shit, Storm Shadow's Walt Disney.
I would. Yeah. That's what I'm getting at.
Twist. At this point, we're basically depending on Marlon Wayans to save the world. I just want to mention that.
We're screwed. I actually have Ripcord. You suck.
He's terrible. This is also where they got that thing where he can't fire the missiles and he learns he has to do it in Celtic.
Trahem.
Okay. And then he eventually catches the last missile. The nanomite shit gets on his plane. He flies up into space and ejects himself in outer space.
Right.
And lands fine.
Now, to be fair, that guy who did that the world's largest skydive actually did, skydive from above orbit, but he had like a super expensive suit on to protect him from burning up.
It wasn't that he was in outer space. He was in the outer part of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right, like pretty much right before he would go into space, he ejects himself so he can still come down to Earth and
not burn up.
Yeah, and you'll see like when he ejects, like this huge, like this space helmet type thing wraps his face when he ejects.
So there you go.
So that's supposedly how he's supposed to be able to do this.
And then he gets arrested.
Again.
Yeah. I'm about to...
Because nobody knows about the G.I. Joe.
Right. The president... Certainly the Secret Service wouldn't be in on that.
Yeah, because they don't protect the president or anything.
Yeah, no, not at all.
You guys are on a neat...
Well, apparently they don't, because guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they didn't kill him.
I know, right?
They didn't need him after this.
Yeah, so where is the actual... So the actual president, when he walks in and, like, becomes him, he doesn't kill the president?
No, because the president's actually in the next movie. He's being held in another bunker somewhere.
That makes no sense.
I'm guessing so Zartan could study him further.
But he says
better version.
earlier that he studied him for 18 years.
That dude's old as fuck.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
So Zartan started studying him when he was like 15?
And how the heck can he still be president?
I just realized that. How can you study someone? So he studied him.
The corrupt American system.
It's fixed. The Russians were in on it.
He read the WrestleZone spoilers that this guy was going to become president, so he started studying his every move. Wow, that's like one of the biggest things. How would you know 18 years in advance? This guy is going to be the president. Oh, man. Yeah.
Just the worst.
Just the worst. And then we get Groundskeeper Willie becoming Destro and the Doctor becoming Cobra Commander. By the way, we get about 10 minutes left of this movie.
Which is unfortunate because I'm going to tell you this. When I heard this movie was coming out, not the hugest G.I. Joe fan, I'm going to admit, I was looking forward to it because of the cartoons I had watched. And I was really hoping that when this movie was going to be coming out, that they were going to be getting in, like they would just kind of jump into it. Like Cobra Commander would have the, either the hood or the glass mask. You know, every G.I. Joe is a thing that exists, and it's a team that's intact. There's no recruiting or origin stories. No, we had to sit through the whole thing to get that happening in the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. It suffers from the same problem. Well, they both have many other problems, but it suffers from a similar problem with, like, Lone Ranger. Like, you don't need the whole thing to be an origin story.
No, G.I. Joe is, we're in Canada. G.I. Joe is even, a huge part of our pop culture lexicon.
G.I. Joe!
That whole knowing is half the battle. You don't even have to know G.I. Joe to know those PSAs from Saturday morning cartoons when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're Brendan.
Unless you're Brendan. And then you get it wrong when you put it up on the webpage.
All right, guys.
Or Facebook page. No.
I did.
No one to blame but yourself.
I did what I could.
Yeah, well, you didn't do well enough.
It was in the spirit of the movie. That's the...
Well, I will say this. Your quote was about as accurate as this movie.
Yes! Oh, wait, what?
Exactly.
So... Willie and Joseph Gordon-Levitt...
Groundskeeper Destro.
Groundskeeper Destro and Joseph Gordon Commander get put in prison. Because Channing Tatum has his whole army show up.
That mask that they gave Cobra Commander. Jesus.
Yeah, I didn't even know what the real one looked like, and I thought it looked stupid, so I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because like I was saying, two of the main things that the fanboys were all mad about was Snake Eyes having a mouth and the Cobra Commander mask.
Yeah.
And in Retaliation, in the second movie, they gave Cobra Commander the proper helmet with the glass face on it, and then they took the mouth off Snake Eyes.
Yeah, it's.
So really, if we could take one thing away from this, the true way to appease fanboys is the removal of mouths.
Well, so you're saying that would have
and no masks that look like jellyfish.
Right.
So I think someone should remake Transformers and just take away...
And take out the parts where you could see Optimus Prime's vagina mouth? Yeah.
No, everyone's mouth. I want everyone to not have a mouth when they talk. Yeah, so I gotta say too, as we get to the end here, which of course is just the Joes all prancing around. Marlon Wayans does some more quipping. I think he's probably gonna end up with Scarlett at this point. And
well, Scarlett's already kissed him at this point.
Yeah.
This is where she has shown her true colors of being a hoe.
G.I. Ho.
True colors. Yeah. And the president is Zartan. But I gotta say, this movie, obviously there was a sequel made, but they...
yeah, because there was profits to be had.
Yeah, but this movie is so cocky that they're gonna get a sequel. Because there's so many things that are he becomes the president, and they're like, ooh, what's gonna happen here? And
Well, again, that sets it up, but I mean, to be fair, G.I. Joe has been going on since the 60s. Now, the ones that we're familiar with, obviously, is the more of the Hasbro line with Duke and all them, but G.I. Joe has been the thing since the 60s with their lifelike hair and the kung fu grip.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but I'm just saying that this movie, was very much we're going to be a huge success.
Well, to be fair, they had Hasbro money, so...
Yeah. Which you would think they would have better effects.
It would have been great if every time they cut to special effects, it was just G.I. Joe toys. It was just pew 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 pew. Kids clanging G.I. Joe toys together.
And then Storm Shadow gets a jetpack and he flies off with Baroness.
You know what? Better movie. I would watch that over this. Because it would probably be about 25 minutes long.
Well, and at least it would have been fun to watch.
Yeah. And in the spirit of the movie, we end with the worst Black Eyed Peas junk rock type shit song. That's how I describe it. I don't know what the song is, but it just sounds horrible.
It's G.I. Joe in here. It's G.I. Joe in here.
I got that. Down. Yeah, bullshit.
Oh.
Matt, any final thoughts on the accuracies that you didn't get to point out? The
whole movie is not accurate.
but other than that,
They could have done so much more if they had just introduced Cobra Commander. See, the way I would have seen it would be if they had Cobra Commander at the very start of it. Cobra's not really a thing because, you know, the title's Rise of Cobra. And Destro is already there and whatnot. And then build to some of the bigger... I mean, Cobra Commander's always been the main bad guy character. But they could have built to having like a guy like Serpentor in the next movie because he was supposed to be the king of Cobra. It's like he was supposed to be above Cobra Commander, even though in the comic books and in the cartoon movies and whatnot, he was never really bigger than Cobra Commander. Like, he didn't play as big of a role, but he was supposed to be like the almighty Cobra. So it would have been better if they had started there and built to like him being in like the second movie or whatnot. And just cut out like all the BS with Baroness and Duke
and ditch all the origin stories.
Yeah, like everybody already knew the origin, and really the only origin that I'll even say from a fanboy perspective that should have been remotely talked about is Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
that's it. Everything else everybody already knows. These guys are American heroes. They're essentially the American army as far as the movie's concerned. You didn't need 50 different backstories.
Actually, if I could frame this with a movie that had been released almost 20 years before this movie came out, Mission Impossible. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay, they didn't. They just kind of mention about the, I guess the division or the what's the word I'm looking for here? The folks that Ethan Hunt is involved with.
Okay.
Right? They don't have to go into this big thing about how he joined up with the Mission Impossible crew, how long he's been doing this, what sort of, wretched childhood trauma drove him to this, or anything like that. You just jump into the movie, they're doing their spy thing, they're, international espionage agents. Done.
Yeah.
And this movie could have done that.
This movie, honestly, if they'd taken all that shit out, it would have been an hour long. Like...
Well,
but they could have put in good stuff.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, there was so much unnecessary bullshit.
Yeah, the thing that kind of threw me for a loop right away was when, Duke's not a G.I. Joe and the movie starts. Well, in the cartoons and in the comic books, Duke is, the head G.I. Joe.
He is the G.I. Joe.
He's not General Hawk or General Flag from the cartoons.
But he's boots on the ground, G.I. Joe.
He is the leader of G.I. Joe in the field and whatnot, and here he's a minion. And it seems like they have Heavy Duty being the leader in the field, when really in the cartoon, Heavy Duty is just...
It's Adabisi, right?
What's that?
Adabisi.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He's just one of those... He's like one of the grunt guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like what?
And
Breaker is just like a little minion guy in the cartoon and comic books too. Like, he's not like a big... They left out so many actual big characters out of the movie and used these little tiny characters that are barely mentioned in the cartoons and comic books.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's crazy too, because there's so many characters in this movie, and yet they left out so many better ones.
Yeah, well, the other thing, Zartan,
yeah,
he has a twin.
Okay.
That's not mentioned in the movie at all.
Aren't they the leader of the Princeton Guard?
Or is that the Dreadlocks. Or Dreadnoks, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, the Dreadnoks they're the leader of the Dreadnoks.
Okay.
So, but yeah, on both sides, they it seems like they have so many characters, but they don't use any of the big ones.
It's so bad.
Well, that whole training scene with Duke that you were talking about when he's fighting Snake Eyes with the batons and whatnot, where they have what's his name?
Brendan
Fraser.
Yeah.
They had a specific character that was the trainer in the cartoons. His name was Beachhead. Why the hell wasn't Beachhead doing the training?
Well, maybe Brendan Fraser was Beachhead.
No, he was Sergeant Stone.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they call him?
That was his name, was Sergeant Stone. Who the fuck is Sergeant Stone?
Brendan Fraser.
So wait, you're saying Sergeant Stone is not a G.I. Joe character? Like,
I don't remember a Sergeant Stone.
Well, that's
in G.I. Joe.
That's really funny. I hope you're right, because when I read about Brendan Fraser wanting to be in the movie, he was like, I really want to be Sergeant Stone. So I hope that they were like
the only two trainers that I remember in the movie or in the cartoons and in the comic book was Beachhead and Sergeant Slaughter.
What?
Sergeant Slaughter was a trainer
You
for the
didn't know that?
insubordinate Joes.
You didn't know that, Brendan?
Hold the phone. Sergeant.
Are you serious? Are we
You
honest?
didn't know this?
Oh my god! You call yourself a wrestling fan?
Oh my god!
This is breaking news for me. I did not know. Well, I knew. Okay, I knew there was a connection, but I didn't know he was an actual character in the comics.
No, Sergeant Slaughter is legitimately the character from the comics.
Is it based on the wrestler?
Yes.
Yes.
What?
Okay. Lieutenant Stone is the name of 3 different fictional characters from the G.I. Joe franchise. Each one of them are featured in different continuity. 2 lieutenants appearing both in the animated series and comic books for G.I. Joe Extreme and G.I. Joe Sigma 6. So that's probably why you haven't heard of them.
Yeah, I never watched any Sigma 6. I watched like the first episode and I was like, what the fuck is this?
and a sergeant portrayed by Brendan Fraser in Rise of the Cobra. So there you go. And they actually have, in addition to each of them actually have an action figure in the lines from Hasbro.
Wow.
So there you go.
Don't recall. Well, because that's Sigma 6.
Stone, he looks almost like Duke would almost look like, yeah.
Actually, it does look exactly like Duke.
Yeah.
Because Duke had the flat top haircut.
That
for
was
a lot
Extreme, and
I don't even know. I haven't even heard of G.I. Joe Extreme.
That's him on the right, and that's in Sigma 6.
He's a white Nick Fury.
He is.
Oh.
So,
well, no, David Hasselhoff is a white Nick
Yeah,
Fury.
he's pre Sam Jackson Nick Fury.
Oh my god. But you know what, guys? This movie, we clearly didn't like it, but don't take our word for it.
No, don't.
Because this movie has a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's high from critics, and a 50 for the audience, split right down the middle. This is one of my favorite negative reviews. This is from Cliff Dorkson, right away. Yeah, or might be Dirksen, but I like to call him Cliff Dorkson. From the Chicago Reader, he says, "Loud, shiny, and critic-proof, this franchise launcher is basically Transformers minus the humanity."
And this Transformers is filled with robots.
In fairness, too, though, if they had actually done what I was just saying, with how they could have had Cobra Commander at the very start of it and Destro at the start of it, they would have had the Decepticons. They really would have, because there's Megatron, and then there's the second in command Starscream, who's trying to overthrow Megatron, and that's what happens in the cartoon and the comic books.
Yes,
there's Cobra Commander, and then there's Destro, and Destro tries to overthrow Cobra. So they would have had the Transformers.
Oh man, they need to make a crossover movie now. Make it happen, Michael Bay. I will say this right here on this podcast,
and then we'll talk about that movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say
because it's Michael Bay.
I will say this right here on this podcast. If that movie ever happens, it is gonna be on this show. 1000%. This next one comes from Christopher Orr from the New Republic. Sometimes a film defies conventional narrative and artistic standards so utterly that it seems unfair to judge it by them. Consider this a tone poem in 40 scraps of dialogue. So it's pretty negative.
Okay.
You go.
Well, let's see here. We got this one coming from from the Chicago Tribune. Mm-hmm. Summers did the first 2 Chaotic Mummy remakes. Those play like tender mercies compared to this one.
Well done, Michael Phillips.
Yes. And Chuck Wilson from the Village Voice. After a first hour that plays like a bad TV show, Summers hits his groove with an over-the-top Paris chase sequence that, in turn leads to an underwater finale that's absurdly overproduced. Monumentarily? Momentarily.
Okay.
Momentarily diverting, and then instantly forgettable.
Pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Here's a positive review. This is
Whoa.
this is the snippet they gleaned from the positive review. Matthew Razak from Examiner.com said, again, this is positive. I don't think I've seen an untested film franchise be set up for a sequel so hard in my entire life.
And that's a positive.
Yeah, that's a positive review. It's like a barely positive review. This one, if you guys have either of you heard of this critic named Armand White?
No.
Basically, he's this contrarian critic. He's almost a troll. He'll do these reviews of like Transformers movies and like praise the
Talk like they're Citizen Kane.
Yeah, and then do a review of like, we'll say like a recent one like Baby Driver and say like, oh, this is the death of cinema. So he's basically like this, yeah. But his writing is really good, but it's like he chose to take it in another direction. So here's his.
I say kudos to him.
Oh, he's something else. But here is his review snippet for G.I. Joe. Just brace yourself. G.I. Joe must be understood as an authentic measurement of our cultural values. Its appeal to the pop commercial synapses also demonstrates livelier filmmaking than such utter banality as Iron Man and Star Trek and Harry Potter's half-blooded chintz.
That's fantastic.
He's a goon.
Well, I think Matt would appreciate this one from Jeffrey Lyles. The snippet is a dull, passionless take on a property that any fan could have outdone with half the budget. No joke.
Well, yeah, because we said watching someone play with G.I. Joe toys would be a better movie.
Yeah.
Our next movie.
Ugh.
Here's the clue for our next movie. We are going back already to the Michael Bayniverse, and it's a goodie. Oh, it's a goodie. We also I do want to say that one of the stars of this movie is What Were They Thinking? Alum from long ago.
I wish I was getting paid by the hour.
So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for our mailbag next week as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to thank Matt Pettifer for stopping by and telling us how bad this movie was and how inaccurate it was.
I really appreciate you putting yourself through that. I really, really do.
It was like when they said they were making it, I was wondering which origin they were going to follow. I didn't realize they were going to explain all new origins, though.
and then you saw the movie and you were like, oh, none of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes.
I think I remember when this movie came out because Matt had gone to see it, and I knew he was a big fan, and I was like, "What did you think of the movie?" He was like,
he vomited all over your shoes?
"No, that was him choking back his rage."
Oh.
It was funny because I actually went and saw it in theater, and during the movie, all you hear is people going, "What the fuck?"
Oh, it's a good opening night when that happens.
Yeah.
I was there opening night actually too.
Well, that's when all the fans show.
Yeah.
If you want a true fan experience of any franchise, go on the first night, because any diehard fan will have at least sold their mom to get a ticket. So
I guess this just leaves me with a couple questions for you then, Nathan.
just a couple.
I'm gonna narrow it down.
Okay,
but
just like they did with this movie.
Right, I'm gonna dumb it down as much as possible, much like
Okay.
G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra.
Rightio.
In a movie where one of the most popular and beloved villains shows up in the last 5 minutes,
Right.
and there are 250 noted explosions, with probably 240 of them being unnecessary.
Almost to a Michael Bay in proportions.
Yes. In a film with approximately 74 minutes of flashbacks.
Yeah.
In a movie where Channing Tatum has the look of a deer in headlights for the entire film.
I'm with you so far. Yeah.
And in a movie where Marlon Wayans somehow isn't the worst performer in the movie.
Uh-huh.
And in a movie where Michael Bay appears to be your inspiration.
You're narrowing nothing down.
And finally, in a movie where Snake Eyes indeed has a mouth.
Okay.
I just have to ask you.
What's that?
What were they thinking?